Greetings, Culture Warriors. This is Jeff Vieira, author of Culture is Everything, and your host for this latest Dispatch from the Front. Interesting story to talk to you about today. This one is from the Daily News. That's New York Daily News. Jessica Schladebeck. Headline: Nigerian Instagram influencer charged with conspiring to launder millions stolen through email scams. A Nigerian Instagram star well known for flaunting his lavish lifestyle online has been charged in the United States for conspiring to launder millions of dollars stolen through email scams and other cybercrimes. Ramon Olorunwa Abbas, better known as Ray Hushpuppi or Hush, appeared in a federal court in Chicago on Friday to face criminal charges alleging he conspired to launder millions of dollars through business email compromise frauds and other scams, including several targeting a U.S. law firm, a foreign bank, and an English Premier League soccer club. The internet celeb was arrested last month by UAE, that's United Arab Emirates, law enforcement officials, and transferred into FBI custody earlier this week, according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. Hushpuppi made no secret of his wealth, often posing in ankle-length Gucci robes, sometimes alongside his extensive Rolls-Royce collection, in photos shared to his 2.4 million internet followers. According to his Instagram bio, he worked as a real estate developer, but authorities have said he actually used less legal ways to fund his luxurious life. The FBI's investigation has revealed that Abbas finances this opulent lifestyle through crime, and that he is one of the leaders of a transnational network that facilitates computer intrusions, fraudulent schemes, including BEC schemes, and money laundering, targeting victims around the world in schemes designed to steal hundreds of millions of dollars, according to the affidavit. Authorities said a BEC scheme typically involves a hacker gaining unauthorized access to a business email, blocking or redirecting communications going in and out of the account, and then using it to communicate with the target company in the hopes of tricking them into completing a wire transfer. United States Attorney Nick Hanna, in a statement, said that it is one of the most difficult internet crimes to identify, noting in 2019 alone, the FBI recorded $1.7 billion in losses by companies and individuals victimized through similar scams. This case targets a key player in a large transnational conspiracy who is living an opulent lifestyle in another country while allegedly providing safe havens for stolen money around the world. As this case demonstrates, my office will continue to hold such criminals accountable no matter where they live. The FBI's investigation has revealed that Ramon Olorunwa Abbas finances... they repeated the previous paragraph there. According to the Dubai Facebook page, Abbas was arrested alongside at least 11 others amid raids during which authorities confiscated nearly $41 million, 13 luxury cars worth $6.8 million, as well as phone and computer evidence containing more than 100,000 fraudulent files and the addresses of nearly 2 million potential victims. A criminal complaint last month alleges that Abbas and his unidentified associates conspired to launder funds stolen in a $14.7 million cyber heist from a foreign national institution in 2019. The same year, he had also allegedly developed a plan to steal $124 million from an English Premier League soccer club, although it is unclear which one. Officials also accused Abbas of participating in a BAC scheme targeting the client of a New York-based law firm in October 2019. According to the complaint, the suspect and his associates tricked a paralegal at the firm into wiring money meant for a real estate refinance into an account belonging to Abbas and his co-conspirators. This scheme cost the firm $922,857. If convicted of money laundering, Abbas would face a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Okay, so first off, my customary apology. You pull these stories from the internet, and the editing standards and writing standards really are so poor that you read them out loud and you have to edit in your head. Otherwise, what comes out doesn't make a lot of sense. So it makes it much more difficult on the receiving end of hearing this transmitted orally, but it's a reflection of the fact that the reporter and their editor, if they had one, didn't care enough to actually proof the story. It doesn't exactly inspire confidence in the accuracy of it when that happens. But let's talk about the values and the cultural aspect of this story. Why is it always a Nigerian? You know, you see those spam emails come out and it's always a Nigerian prince, right? Offering you a deal you can't refuse. Hey, I've got so much money and I'm going to park it in your account. Well, I think it's a function of the fact that Nigeria has had a bit of a rough go of it. And so, and yet has a population which speaks English for the most part, which has access to some technical skills, because Nigeria has been off and on kind of a hub for software development and technology down the years since the internet came into play. And so that combination of kind of grinding poverty overall with language skills and technical skills makes for the ability to do something like this. It's just fascinating. When I worked at Bank of America, I spent a couple of years actually on in the same building on the same floor as Bank of America's burgeoning cybercrimes unit. They were behind glass. It was very interesting. It's a floor that's built out to look futuristic. It looks a little bit of like makes you feel like you're in Star Trek to some extent. The cybercrimes area looks a bit like you might see on one of those shows like 24, where they have the counterterrorism unit CTU, and it's lots of monitors and lots of stuff going on all the time. Haven't had a chance to chat with some of those folks, and this was some years ago now, so this was probably 10 years ago. I was surprised to hear how often the bank's network was attacked. It was a constant barrage. I mean, basically these banking systems are under constant siege from these guys and hackers trying to get into it, and so in this case, the scheme was trying to use the bank's systems in the form of wire transfer, which is kind of antiquated technology, really. But if they could get access to it at both points, they could transfer funds between accounts and do it in a way which might get around the anti-money laundering laws. Because you got a problem when you're a criminal. That problem is you have money that is ill-gotten gains. And with so many people having their money constantly traceable through the banking system, because, very few of us move large amounts of cash every day, anti-money laundering controls have become an effective way for law enforcement authorities to track down criminals. And it works kind of like this. There's some sort of unusual, atypical activity in an account by a user. So let's say, for example, money launderers have always loved cash businesses, right? Businesses that have to handle large amounts of cash. So let's say you own a laundromat. So people come in and they put their cash into the machines to do their laundry. And then at the, periodically you go through, you collect the money out of the machines, and then you go down to the bank with a big bag of it in order to deposit it into an account. So while you'll have variability, because, hey, so, who's doing their laundry on Valentine's Day, right? Who's doing their laundry on Christmas, even if the place is open? Probably fewer people than on an average Wednesday. So you'll have some variability in the amount deposited for a variety of reasons. But criminals have lots of money to launder, so they're going to be tempted to push as much through that front business as they possibly can. And so what they want to do is have large amounts of money going into the bank all the time, because then they're laundering more of it. But what happens is it starts to defy credibility. If you see a laundromat which is constantly depositing tens of thousands of dollars, well, you start to wonder how much traffic can they really have. It becomes implausible. Moreover, sometimes they move around different businesses. So they'll launder some through one operation and then through another. Whereupon you'll see that, hey, we were depositing, say, $5,000 to $7,000 every week, from the laundromat. All of a sudden, we're doing 15. Is business really that great? Or are you laundering money for somebody, some criminal organization or person? As the war on terror developed, now you have countries that have been identified as bad actors, such as Iran, and we don't want them having access to American banks. This was very much complicated when Barack Obama decided to take Iran off that list as part of the Iranian nuclear deal. And then all of a sudden, all those controls were off, and Iran became a major target for money laundering operations, because they were no longer on the countries list on there, so it made it easier to move money through them. What actually happens when you're on that list is any funds coming out of your country and into the banking system are given heightened scrutiny, and any going out too are given heightened scrutiny. So it becomes more difficult for criminals to ply their trade that way, which is the whole point. So these cyber criminals are continuing to innovate to try and find ways around that. And through their phishing schemes, phishing, what they try and do is they try and find ways to get you to click on a link or something to give them access. As a job seeker, I've seen a number of these where they will actually send me messages and claim to have a job opportunity. But what's funny about these schemes is that they're often laughable in terms of their execution. They'll pretend, for example, to be Amazon.com, and they'll say there's a problem with my account. But it's a laughable attempt. I mean, they obviously just took a couple of, screen caps off of the internet. None of it is truly like an Amazon email. Other times they'll have obvious misspellings. They'll address you in weird ways. Those offers that we talked about, they'll make you a job offer, but the amount is kind of laughable. And they'll talk about it as though it were a lot of money. Well, the point of it is actually a fairly sophisticated one. It's not that the people sending that to you are stupid or ignorant. It is that they are fishing for stupid and ignorant people. So what they want is for you to bite on that, continue to talk to them, continue to give them access to more stuff, more accounts, more money. And then they milk you. But to do that, they've got to separate out from the great mass of people the ones that are kind of stupid and gullible. And the way they do this, almost always, is by appealing to your greed. So what they'll do is that Nigerian prince will say, hey, I have a bunch of money that I need to temporarily park somewhere because of unrest in my country, and I just need your bank account. If you let me do this, then I'll pay you X for your time and convenience. Well, in order to fall for something like that, you have to first and foremost be greedy enough to do that and have no moral qualms about it. Well, why is this money? Where did this money come from? How did you get it? Why did your country put that law in place? Why are you violating it? So what they're fishing for is people who don't ask those kind of questions and simply say, oh, this is a way to make a quick buck, I'm in. I saw an episode of Intervention some years ago. That was the show on A&E, which was about addicts and their recovery. And one addict used to answer every single one of these schemes. They would reach out to him. I mean, he would send them gobs of money, all the money he had. He would talk to them on the phone for long periods of time. I mean, it was ridiculous. And when pressed, the explanation he gave was, hey, they can't all be lying. Well, they are all lying. Guys like this hush puppy are living ridiculous lifestyles because they manage to efficiently find people who will fall prey to these schemes and exploit them and steal, defraud them of their hard-earned money. Billions of dollars. So you can see there's a lot of people out here. Very rarely do they simply go in and rob you. The name of the game most of the time with these guys is to get you to give them the money, to transfer it over. Because if you give it to them, there's an element of shame associated with it. How could I have been so stupid? And as with other vices, greed is enabled by pride. I deserve that money. And so when someone falls prey to one of these schemes, the natural thought is to say, how could I have been so stupid, and not to want anyone to know how stupid you are. This happens all the time with the elderly. And it's not a function of them being stupid. It's a function of them being trusting and in some cases not being up to speed on technology. So they don't know what they don't know, and they get exploited for that. And then they feel like, oh, I should have known better. I just don't want anyone to know about this because they'll think I'm losing a step. They'll think I'm crazy, whatever. And so they keep their mouths shut. And that's what these guys want. They want to take your money, and then they want you to shut up about it. So the values in play here, the people, first of all, that tend to fall for these things, well, you got to have a couple of attributes that make you more susceptible to this. As I noted, one of these is probably pride. Another is probably that greed or strong sense of entitlement. You also can have a situation where you're just a very trusting person. This happens a lot with people who grew up either at a time or in a place where you left your doors unlocked, where you could leave your wallet on the counter and know that nobody would rob from you. You just don't have street smarts because you were not exposed to that level of dishonesty and criminality. And people take advantage of this. So these values are not 100% vices, or at least not 100% of the time. But if you look for a free lunch routinely, you are going to be more susceptible to these kind of things. If you don't value keeping up on the latest technology, if that's not a priority for you, you're going to fall subject to more of these because that's the weapon they use. On the other side, for these criminals, well, obviously you can't have any empathy. One of the reasons so much of this happens from Nigeria and other third world countries is because they have a hatred of countries like the United States. They feel like we're wealthy and we shouldn't be. And so to them, this is evening the playing field. Doesn't matter that they're not entitled to, didn't earn, in fact, have stolen from people, and that those people may not have a lot of money. I mean, these generally are not the wealthiest people getting tapped for this. It's typically, your middle class, your really lower middle class to your poor who are getting exploited here. Now, on a global scale, they're wealthier than the poor are in other countries. But there's an element here where Nigerians and other folks who come from the third world may feel that there's a bit of political entitlement to doing this. May even be patriotic. A lot of these efforts are directed, particularly the ones coming out of Russia and out of China, are directed by the government. So this, to them, this is simply war by other means, and they're getting a piece of the pie. This is part of their payment. So some values in play here. This is why my family has LifeLock. If you do business really with any large bank, your accounts will be insured and protected from that bank for this, because who would do online banking if they didn't offer that kind of protection? But I certainly recommend having those type of services available, mainly for the peace of mind. Knowing that, hey, if all of a sudden I wake up one day and my account has been drained by one of these scam artists, and they're getting smarter all the time, so it may not be just the kind of technology obtuse and the lower end of the IQ spectrum, which gets heavily exploited by this in the future. But having that peace of mind is worth something, and it's certainly worth the fees that we pay to try and keep everything clean. And I certainly recommend we avail ourselves of that. As time has gone on and we do more and more online, that is more and more opportunities for your information to be compromised and exploited. And so it's a very good idea to maintain some precautions when you're going online. Don't make your passwords obvious. If you're going to do all text passwords, make them long and make them something only you would be aware of. That prohibits people from really being able to run algorithms and find your password, right? So everyone, you could, for example, provide a litany of something known only to you, perhaps the way you tell a story from your past, and just run that story out. Because the more characters you have in your password, the harder it's going to be for them to break it. Don't don't have your passwords on Post-its. Part of the problem where people advise, have a different use the system generated password and have a different password every day. The problem is you can't keep track of all that stuff. They do have lockers for it, but then if the locker gets compromised, you're screwed. The better thing to do is to have something that you can remember, that's long, that's complicated, but it's, they're not going to break it the first time, so you don't have to worry about them breaking in multiple places. That would be wise. In the era of facial recognition and text approvals and stuff, we've generally got 2 and more factor authentications out there. Enable those whenever you can. I had for a time one of my accounts where I bought some software got leaked online. And every now and then I would get a message, because I had 2-factor turned on for it, that somebody in China or somebody in Czechoslovakia or somebody in Estonia was trying to access my account. They couldn't because I had 2-factor turned on. If I hadn't, they could have gotten right in and robbed me blind. So it's a good idea to do that. Review your statements. You want to take a look at your bank and credit card statements frequently, so you can spot any unusual activity and you can report it. And if something like this happens, if you do, and let me just state the most obvious, if somebody sends you an email saying, there's a problem with your account or whatever, never click on the link. Never, ever, ever click on the link. Instead, go out and look for the actual phone number at the company's official site and contact them that way. So a lot of times in the contact us, they'll have emails, they'll have chat, all that's fine. But contact them directly. 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, what you'll hear is, oh yeah, we're aware there's a phishing scheme out on this. And no, there's nothing wrong with your account. Most companies have gotten away from notifying you via email of such problems. They'll use other means. So there's no need to be tempted to click on those things. If you do fall prey to one of these, don't be ashamed. These people's sole job is trying to figure out ways to bait the hook so that people like you take the bait. So the only way to get rid of these people is to report it so that the people whose job it is to find and hunt them down and bring them to justice can do so. So if something like that happens to you, just report it to the authorities. Let them know. Even if they can't do something about it locally, they can at least report it. And I'm sure every local law enforcement authority has a number handy for who's dealing with cyber crimes at a higher level. Okay. And if you see an email where a Nigerian prince is asking you for anything, just delete the email, block the sender, and move on. That's your cybercrime advice for today. Have a wonderful day.